Hello, hello. Thank you, Ms. Fullwood, for that lovely introduction this evening. We are so excited about the chance to share with our parent community today. And so with this elementary section, we're going to go ahead and get started and dive right in. I am, as Ms. Fullwood said, I'm Mia Small, and I was expecting a colleague who took ill today, a little strep throat, so she had to be out. But Deborah Lewis, we are both elementary generalist supervisors for Hillsborough County Schools, and what we do, we coordinate and support instructional curriculum needs and student progression requirements for our schools, our students, and parents, and that's the support level of support amongst many other projects that we do with our school district to support our schools and learning. So what we want to share with you today is the elementary portion of how to help your student promote from grade 5 to grade 6, and we're going to share with you our objectives. We are excited to work with you all, our parent population today, to help you grasp a better understanding of how our students do move from 5th to 6th grade and make that transition smooth and seamless and everybody's on the same page. For our objectives today, we will review grade 5 student requirements and end-of-year targets. You know that old saying, know your numbers to grow your numbers. We will cover these other topics which will help you gain a better understanding of Hillsborough County's Student Progression Plan and how to access the Student Progression Plan, better known as SPP for short. So you may hear us use those acronyms, SPP, short for Student Progression Plan. We'll also help you, as our parents, become familiar with the procedures for grade 5 to grade 6 promotion, and you'll also understand what your child needs in order to promote to grade 6. And finally, we will also share with you and help you understand the articulation process if your child does not meet promotion. So if they're not able to move from grade 5 to grade 6, what are some next steps that can occur if that is the case in your student situation? So now that we know the objectives, we're going to talk about the more specifics to help us understand those objectives we just shared. Today, we're going to actually highlight for you 3 procedures used in our district to determine and monitor student progress and promotion. You'll see these 3 little gears, and all these gears kind of have to synchronize together to make the whole process work together. One of those gears, the first one you see highlighted in yellow, is our student progression plan. It is a parent document and a district document, and we're going to help you become familiar with that today. Also, secondly, the second gear that we're going to focus in on is how do we gear up our students and help them be ready for 6th grade by progress monitoring their success along the way and helping them reach that criteria so they can reach the 6th grade. And what documentation do they need? And then our third way of helping our students reach their end-of-year targets, as we see here in the header, is we're going to talk to you a little bit about our performance level matrix. This is a document that's used more in the school level. It's an in-house document used at the school level, and it helps our schools to determine whether or not the data targets or the success criteria is met by our students. These processes, once again, they do work in conjunction with one another, and so we're going to help you wrap your head around all of that today with our how we help our students promote. So what is the Student Progression Plan? You've heard me say this along with the acronym SPP. What you see in front of you is the definition of a Student Progression Plan, which is defined by the state of Florida. And as you know, our state, we have legislators. They determine our laws, and those laws are defined in the Florida state statutes. And those laws and statutes are what we have to abide by. So why is this Student Progression Plan important? In Hillsborough County Schools, our district progression plan is very much in alignment with the state rules that we all have to follow. And so we want to help you wrap your head around the district progression plan, which is very much in alignment with the state rules that we have to follow. It is very helpful for you as parents to know that the district progression plan is our guiding document. It is in the public. You can access it on our website. Our school board utilizes this. Our school sites will utilize it. And you as the parent can utilize the student progression plan distributed by our school district to help everyone understand how our students are promoted, how they are retained, how those decisions are made. And the real focus of the student progression plan is to help us to determine a student's ability to master their grade level standards. So everything we do, everything the students are here to learn, and everything we help them to learn all centers around their grade level standards and what they have to learn in their different subjects, such as reading, math, writing, science, and social studies. All procedures that you see in this SPP for short are actually subject to change. So we want to make sure you know that. Because sometimes due to school board actions, legislative requirements, sometimes our state government, they'll go into session and they'll change things. Or the school board approved school improvement plans that the schools put out. Sometimes they have waivers and different variations or law and rule changes. So each year we take the time to update that. So we wanted to let you know once you download it, try to keep the information current because it could be subject to change. And if it does change, your school, parents or guardians will be notified by the school anytime those changes occur. And our goal is to help everyone to be in the know and have communication about that. So what you see now on our screen, I told you a little bit about what the student progression plan is and how it helps us to all know how to retain students, how we promote students, how we help students enter certain grade level based on how to enroll and age criteria, those kind of things. What you see is the table of contents that you can find when you actually first open the student progression plan. So those are some of the different topics you will notice on your screen. On the right side, you'll notice they have information about our virtual school programs, our home to school education, workforce, adult-related things. And on the left is our elementary, middle, exceptional student, and high school-related programs, as well as early childhood. So the nice thing that you'll notice about the student progression plan, today we're covering elementary and middle topics. However, this is a guiding document for grades K through adults. And that's what Hillsborough County School does. We cover K through adult learning, not just elementary. So you'll find those topics, but today, guess what? As you see right here on the left in the pink, we're honing in on the elementary student progression plan, and our colleagues will cover the middle section in the next segment of today's webinar. So guess what? As we move on from this information, I want to make sure, now that you're here with us today, that you know how to access our student progression plan. Parents, you can reach our student progression plan on our school district website. It's public information. It's information for us to help communicate and make sure we're on the same page so you have readily available access. Across the top of the screen, you'll notice the blue banner. And this is our navigation banner here in the top. And the first way you can access the banner is to simply go to Departments. And then once you drop down Departments, in the blue section, you can choose Elementary. And from Elementary, you can choose Documents and Forms. Once you choose Documents and Forms, you'll see right here, Documents and Forms is on your left. And once you're on this page to your far right, you'll actually see the student progression plan. You can download it, read it, review it, call your school, ask questions, dive into it, and learn more about your child's transition as they go throughout the years from K to 12 or K to adult in their learning process. That was the first way, by simply going to Departments in Elementary. You can also access it. A very easy way is to select students. Because the progression plan is all about our students, you can quickly just simply go down to students, and from students you can choose student progression plan right here in the student menu. It's an easier way to choose student progression plan right from the student drop down. And then a third quick way, when you go to our school district website, in the top right box, you will always see the word search right here. You'll notice the little magnet icon. And from the search, you can simply type student progression plan. It will appear in your search options. And on the right-hand side, you'll be able to download. So that's 3 quick, easy ways for you to access the student progression plans. So we're talking about it, and we just want to make sure you know how to access it. So now that you know what's in a student progression plan, what kind of information you can find it, and where you can find it, we're going to dive into some specifics about what we're talking about today. Well, how do I help my 5th grade child move on to 6th grade? So let's dive into that topic. And hello and welcome to everyone that's continuing to chime in and log on to today's webinar. Thank you so much for your time. Now, what you'll see here, I'm going to move on from this screen. The second topic, we just finished wrapping up the student progression plan and how to access those documents. The second topic that we want to transition into is progress monitoring. And this is the topic we're covering here in the yellow. This second highlighted topic we will focus our attention on is how schools progress monitor students and their achievement and how well they can hit those end of the year data targets. We'll talk a little bit about those data targets a little later, but right now we want to talk about, well, how do we help the students along the way? We have a 180-day school year. We have a lot of information and standards to share and teach our students. And along the way, we want to progress monitor and make sure they can be successful by hitting those end of year targets so that they can promote from grade 5 to grade 6. Multiple sources used for progress monitoring include, but are not limited to, our elementary students, they may take iReady diagnostic tests. They may take subject area assessments in their class for math, reading, writing, science. They may take quizzes, chapter tests, 9-week tests, student-created products or projects. They may have writing samples, classroom assignments, journal entries, and other sources of evidence that the students can produce to show what they know. And that's one of the ways that we progress monitor, by looking at the work that the students produce as our evidence of them learning. So when your student is going through those standards and they are on target for meeting the promotion criteria, our students are expected to demonstrate satisfactory or higher level performance in those subjects we just talked about: reading, writing, science, math. And we collect that data to make sure that we show evidence of them knowing their standards, being proficient, and their readiness to move on to the 6th grade. That data can be collected by the teacher as portfolio evidence, documentation evidence, and we share and communicate that information with our parents via report cards, parent-teacher conference summary, samples of the student works that come home, maybe portfolio type collections. So there's a wide variety of ways that we're intentional about sharing with you and communicating with you as parents so that you know what's happening along the way as we're progress monitoring. So sometimes the students will come home on a Friday with a weekly folder. Sometimes they come home with their journal books every day. And you can see the progress and the feedback that our teachers will share through those communication media, as well as report cards that you get at the end of every grading period. On your screen, you will notice that we have a little thumbnail image of what the report card looks like. I would imagine as parents, you've seen that document. It comes home every grading period, and you have great conversations with your students centered around how well they have performed and how much progress they have made along the way. Every goal that's set in life is all about the progress that you make along the way. In addition to their achievement levels and how they perform with report card, we're looking at social emotional maturity, their aptitude, the whole list that you see on the screen. Are there any prior attendance? How are they doing with the attendance? You have to be in attendance in order to learn the information, right? So all of these factors come into play, and they're very helpful to have a holistic look and not just the report card. How is a child performing in class? And we always seek our input from our parents and guardians because you know your child's needs, where their strengths are, and what areas they need those extra support, etc. So these are some of the things we use to determine if promotion criteria is met, along with the report card that comes on each grading period. For example, along with the academic grade that the students come home with, you may expect to see your students' performance level on the report card. They'll get a grade like an A or a B or E for excellent or N for needs improvement. Along with their grade, you may see a student's performance level on an elementary report card, and that just lets us know the level of learning, what grade level standards the student is able to master. Are they on level with learning their grade level standards? Are they performing above level and really have shown mastery of their grade level standard? Or sometimes, in some cases, you may see a BL, which may indicate they don't have a strong mastery of their grade level standards. And so BL means they're performing below level, and it's our job to help get their resources, their strategies, and the interventions in place to help them make up any gaps in the learning. So that's our goal, and that's our focus. So the good news is, on the report card, when a student meets the criteria, in the very bottom right of the thumbnail of the report card that you see on the screen, it will show at the end of the year. It won't show it before. It can't show in the third grading period, only in the fourth grading period on the last day of school. You expect your child to bring home a report card, and it will show promoted to grade 5. And you should probably know ahead of time. Anyways, even before the last day of school, teachers are really good about communicating. So we talked about what happens when your child is promoted to grade 5, promoted from grade 5 to grade 6. Let's talk about how do we help them if they are not meeting the promotion criteria. And that's what we want to transition into a little here today. All right. So now that you see the information on your screen, if the child is not meeting the promotion criteria to grade 2, what happens in the case where the student doesn't meet the promotion criteria? Specifically, the 5th to 6th grade process does allow for extenuating circumstances and or other factors to be taken into consideration if they didn't meet the grade level standards and learn them at a satisfactory or mastery performance level. Then there are extenuating circumstances that we can look at. Placement from 5th to 6th grade is actually determined by the school. You may be wondering, well, who determines whether or not my child does make it from 5th grade to 6th grade? That's determined by the school. And if we notice that a report card or the data within a child's performance, the evidence that we collect, from their student work and how they're performing along the way, if we're noticing that they're not on target for grade promotion, then the school will have a school placement committee, and that school placement committee, they have the responsibility of looking at the whole child, taking a holistic approach. We don't just grab one piece of thing like the report card. We look at everything to determine how much they know, what is the data showing, what are the extenuating circumstances that may help them along the way to promote. The school placement committee is comprised of the principal. And we're going to wrap up the last part. So the school placement committee, in the event that your child is not meeting promotion criteria, the principal, the AP, the school counselor, the classroom teacher, English language learner support resource teachers, if a child has an IEP or a 504 waiver plan, the ESE specialist will help with all this information, the school psychologist. Everyone will come together to talk about the needs of the child as well as the parent as a partner in this process so that we can gather all the information we need that's helpful in making the determination whether or not the child is able to move forward and shows enough evidence that they can be successful in the 6th grade. Our ultimate goal is to make sure our kids are successful and not set up for failure. So A holistic look at their evidence and all the extenuating circumstances are important in this process. At the end of the year, the report card will show promoted or not promoted to grade 6 after the school placement committee makes a determination. If criteria is not met, they will definitely notify our parents with a parent-teacher conference summary or a parent-teacher conference, a parent-teacher conference meeting. They'll document the information in writing as official notification that the child will be retained, but what is our game plan to help them move forward? How are we going to support them in that process within a retention scenario? And how can that help your child? What will we do differently? That game plan will be crucial in that process. And then progress monitoring. Let's move that slide. When we progress monitor along the way, exceptions for extenuating circumstance may be used with that school placement committee, and that's what they're all about, helping us know everything we need to know about your child and progress monitor them along the way. Any student who scores below level 3 in ELA and or math, we need to provide them, our responsibility is to provide them with additional progress monitoring assessment to help determine the specific academic areas of focus, what interventions they need, what strategies and resources are helpful, and it's helping them to be successful so they really wrap their heads around those standards. And so really that's kind of the process that's happening within the school setting to make sure the academic needs are met and we can help your child make progress and move forward. So really we're looking for progress along the way from beginning to end. Because what we know about our children, and you know about your children, especially if you have more than one, our children grow at different rates, right? So we want to monitor their progress along the way and make sure that they're successful. How we progress monitor includes formal or informal assessments. They may do oral questioning. We may conference with them. They may have to produce student products or writing samples, journal entries, and perform a work test, quiz, or little mini assessments along the way. So that's just a little bit about progress monitoring. And to wrap this up, I want to share one quick document, which is our performance level matrix. That's our third topic on the gear. It's highlighted here in yellow. And the performance level matrix is an in-house document used by the schools as a guide for end-of-year student academic targets. We need to know from beginning to end, if a student is on a certain grade level, what data targets do they need to hit? And how much growth do we expect them to make over time? Again, they do grow at different rates. So every child is different. They grow at their own pace. And so we're able to differentiate, help your students based on their needs. And this is a quick snapshot of the grade level performance matrix. This is for 5th grade, and this indicates the data targets that a student has to make in order to show that they are proficient as they move from grade 5 to grade 6. These are the end of the year targets that schools use to assist in making promotion and retention decisions on our students. Performance levels will fall in the range of 1 to 5 as indicated on this matrix snapshot on your screen. Proficiency typically is defined at level 3 or higher within our state examinations, as well as our other assessments that we administer in classroom. We are looking for FSA proficiency in grade 5. That is one of our key performance indicators, along with others, because we do take a holistic approach. And I think that's very, very important for you to know. Although we have this matrix, the chart permits our decision makers to really identify the overall growth of an individual child and see if they've made progress along the way. I know that it was a lot of technical information, but as you see right here on our screen, we have our contact information if you have any questions. But I wanted you to know for our students, as they are making that transition from elementary school to middle school, there are different ways we support them along the way. We want to make sure that transition is smooth, and here's some of the things we do. Elementary schools will sometimes, you can look for your child's school to sometimes host special programs like curriculum nights or a middle school showcase night where they can learn about all about the middle school that they're expecting to go to and looking to learn more about before they make that dive and move from the elementary world into the big kid middle school world. And then sometimes maybe the elementary school does not host, but sometimes the middle school may host the special programs, and they'll call up your child's school and ask them to allow them to host the fifth graders that are coming over to their campus. And sometimes there's field trip tours. There may be some extra curriculum night offerings or programs that they will let you know what your child can expect, all about their wheel elective courses, or maybe even an opportunity to meet the middle school teachers. And then thirdly, our magnet school programs, they will even host special recruiting events where parents and students are invited. You can go over to those different magnet choice schools and have special tours of their program offerings and walk the campuses and see it firsthand, so that, we don't want them to just make that leap from elementary to middle, but they get to know their campus, they get to know where their friends are going, they get to know the teachers, and they feel comfortable making that change from elementary, and that could be a different, bigger world for them to learn in as they move to middle school. But that wraps it up for me with our 3 areas that we discussed today about our elementary student progression portions of the progression plan, as well as how we progress monitor and the performance level matrix that has the data targets that we use to help make sure our students are on target, ready, and feel supported, and ready to take on middle school. I'm going to open the floor because you may have a few questions, and then we're going to all stay right on because our middle school colleague will tell you all about the middle school world and how to help them move from middle to a high school. That's it for me. I'm turning it back over to you, Ms. Fullwood, if there's any questions.
All right, thank you so much, Mia. And up next, we have Shanshira. We can talk about the transition and the information you need for your student who is in middle school to early high school years. So look at that. Oh, the middle school years. Take it away, Shanshira. Greetings, greetings. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Again, I'm Shanshira Quinn, the middle school counseling supervisor, and I support the school counselors in implementing school counseling programs that address academic, personal, social, and career development of our students, because we do know that as students enter middle schools, even though careers are definitely far off, they do have some opportunities to do some exploration activities and things like that. So it's academic, personal, social, where we know that that's a big deal, and then the career development as well. So I'll be sharing about those oh so wonderful middle years, also known as adolescence, that awkward but exciting period of time between, get to the next slide here, that awkward but exciting time between childhood and adulthood. And of course, it's also known as the wonder years. And if you can look on the slide, you'll see why it's also known as the wonder years. Parents wonder if they will survive. Teachers wonder, how to keep their students focused on learning. And then, of course, the students themselves wonder if they're normal and if they will actually get through this time period. And on this webinar, we're going to walk through how you can, as a parent, help your student navigate through it when it comes to 2 huge areas for our middle school students and that really impact them. And that is, of course, the academics and the social emotional development of our students, right? So these middle years, we know that they bring on several changes for your adolescence. And these changes, of course, includes physical. We know that they're going through growth spurts and different things like that. There, of course, is that rush of hormones that they're dealing with that may have them be happy and excited one day and, feeling down the next day. They're going from concrete thinking, where things are black and white, to more abstract thinking. So they're making that transition with that, where things are a little gray, it's not always black and white. They're developing new relationships because oftentimes they're going from being with a group of students that they're with all day, to changing classes and seeing different students in each class. So they're, expanding their social relationships. And of course, their self-concept goes through changes as well. Attitudes and values may shift a bit once they begin entering, enter middle school and see so many different people with many different ways of being. Okay? All right, so when it comes to, though, their academics, our students are learning, really the focus is for them to learn to balance, right? Because they're going from that one or two teachers primarily to 6 or 7, teachers. So, and then plus their social life picks up. So they're learning to balance it all. And so they're having more classes that they're going to have to take. Again, oftentimes it's 6, 7 classes at school, right? And those classes are building on the things that they learned in elementary school. So they're a higher level of difficulty. They have expectations from a variety of teachers now. So one teacher, they have their own set of, this is the way we do things in my class, and then they may have a different teacher with a whole new set of those expectations. So that's also an adjustment for many of our students entering middle school. And then again, the new grading system, which we'll talk a little bit about. Homework might increase. Again, there are social life, competition, and sports and things like that. They will be dealing with those changes as well. So to meet this demand, they'll need to gain or enhance their organizational skills. From my experience, and even from talking with counselors all across the district, that is a key component to helping our middle schoolers be successful academically, and that is getting control of the backpack. I don't know if you have a 5th grader going to middle school and you've looked inside of their backpack and thought, oh my God, how can you find anything in there? We've learned that this is an area that we want our 6th graders to, gain some control over. So getting control of that backpack, learning how to use a planner. So now they've got to, maybe plan out the week. Might have a test on Friday. So these are the things that I'm going to do on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and Thursday to get prepared for that. So teaching them, for them, learning how to use that planner, folder, and notebook systems. There are a variety of ways that the teachers also will help them to, organize their materials as well. And again, that whole abstract thinking piece becomes more, a bigger deal when they get to middle school. They've got to learn how to problem solve and think critically through problems that they're encountering academically and even in their personal social as well, right? So just to continue on that vein, they'll need to learn how they learn, right? So they may be a visual learner or they may be a kinesthetic learner. It's good for our middle schoolers to start figuring that out, right? And so we, oftentimes the counselors would go into the 6th grade classrooms and help, give activities where students can figure this out for themselves, like which ways, how do they learn best, and helping them to develop a personal system of learning for them. Again, even with the homework, having whether that's structured time at home where it's 6 o'clock. This is what time I do homework. Or, as soon as I walk in the door, I do my homework before I do something else. So just developing a system that works for them so that they can stay on top of their academic expectations. And again, the career exploration piece, we began to, in middle school, start connecting some of those dots to them so that they see how some of that academic work connects to, real life. And so we want to make sure that we're making it as relevant as possible for them, right? So when they get to middle school, they'll be taking some courses that, of course, sounds very familiar to you, and a few new ones also. The courses for 6th grade include language arts, and when you see the asterisk, that means that that is a promotion requirement course. So they'll be taking language arts, they'll be taking math, they'll be taking science, and social studies. Again, these are courses that you probably have seen on their report card coming in from elementary. Most of our students will take a reading course, a PE course, and then you see the career research and decision making, which is what we call our will anyway in 6th grade, because the students will sample the different electives that are offered at the middle school level. So they'll get that particular course where they start thinking, again, they're thinking forward thinking, trying to connect what I want to do when I grow up to the classes that I take now, as far as their electives are concerned. And then in middle school, right, your student can earn grades of A, B, C, D, and F, right? A, B, C, D, and F. And they receive grades each quarter, or what we call 9 weeks, but their semester average is what determines whether or not they pass or fail a class. And in order to pass, a student would need at least a semester average of a D. And I'll show you an example of what that might look like, right? So here's an example of the semester grade calculations. As you can see, like first 9 weeks or the first quarter, if the student earned an A, and then the second quarter they earned a B, and they earned an A on the semester exam, then you would see that their score, what they earned for that semester, is an A, right? And I'll just go ahead and pull all these up here for you so that you can see. So even if they earned C's, right, the first 9 weeks they had a C, the second 9 weeks they had a C, and then they didn't do so hot on the exam and earned a D, you still can see that their semester grade ends up being a C. So that's what we focus on in middle school as far as meeting promotion requirements. What is those, what did they score for their semester or earn for their semester grade? That's the key there. All right. And so in order for them to meet promotion requirements as a 6th grader, your student would need to pass that math. Remember we went over that chart there, that math, that language arts, that science, and the social studies class in order for them to move from 6th grade to 7th grade, right? And I know we're really focusing on when they're coming into middle school, but I also want you as the parent to be aware of what it's going to take for them to get out of middle school, right? So in order to meet middle school promotion requirements, going from 8th to 9th, your student would need to successfully complete 3 years or courses at the middle school level or higher in language arts, math, science, and social studies. And our students also have to complete an academic and career plan because, of course, we are trying to have them future-oriented, focused on connecting what they're doing now to their future. So that academic and career plan is something where they are sitting with their counselors and they're mapping out, these are the classes that I want to take when I get to high school because they're leading me somewhere, whether it's to college or into an actual career. So when students don't meet these requirements, we do offer opportunities for students to make up any failed courses through what we call our ELP program, or Extended Learning Program, where they can make up courses that they failed after school. Some schools may do it before school, and some schools offer time during lunch that students can also make up those courses. Other options we have is that the student just retakes the course during the school day in place of one of their electives, and they get to make those courses up via virtual school. So we do have opportunities for students who failed a course or failed a semester in order to make those courses up as they move along, so that by the time they get to 8th grade and it's time to go to 9th grade, they don't have 4 classes that they need to make up way back in 6th grade, right? We want to make sure that if they're struggling with something and they end up failing a course or failing a semester, we want to make sure that they have those opportunities to make them up. All right, and all that information can be found in the SPP, or the Student Progression Plan, in the middle school section on our website as well. All right, so now, as you can see, the academic expectations can be pretty challenging for our students. So here are some ways that you as the parent can help. And the first one is emphasizing the importance of knowing the promotion requirements, right? We want to make sure that your students also know what is expected of them in order for them to be moved on to the next grade, right? Also helping them to find balance, teaching them to be resourceful, like, for instance, going online and tracking their own progress online through our EdSpeed program or EdConnect, like just having them to be able to track their progress. And, of course, parents, you can do that as well. Helping them to be self-advocate, teaching them how to approach the teacher if they are struggling with something. We have so many students, who are uncomfortable about raising their hands or, talking to their teacher one-on-one. So just teaching them how to advocate for themselves, and also providing encouragement to them along the way. We talked about that organization system that will help them save so much time if they can find a way, or organizational system that works for them, and also really focusing on their strengths, right? That's a big deal. Oftentimes in school, whatever the student's weakness is what we just zero in on because we need to improve in that area. But we also know that if students recognize their strengths and we teach them how to capitalize on those strengths, that can be helpful as well. And then here, help them identify, long-term goals and different, ways that they can achieve that long-term goal. But sometimes, despite everyone's best effort, things can go wrong. So if and when they do, here are some of the ways that you can help your students. So reinforce what they're doing right. Again, going back to those strengths. We're not always going to just focus on the areas that they need to improve, but reinforcing what they're doing right and helping them to see how maybe they can transfer some of the activities that they're doing, like maybe in one class and they're getting an A or a B in that class. What are you doing in that class that, that you feel is helping you to get that A and the B? Let's see how we can transfer that over to, this class or whatever they're doing, whichever course that they may be struggling with. Helping them also to take ownership. So if there is a problem, helping them to see, okay, I own this problem. How can I solve it? So helping them to take ownership and problem solve, and not, where the blame is always outside of them. And coach them on how to approach the teacher, if they need to talk to the school counselor, or even if they're working with a tutor. And remind them of their goals and help them create a strategy or plan to get back on track. When things, go off track. We were helping them to, just reinforcing, hey, don't forget, you had a goal that you were going to get a B in this class or on this exam or whatever, and here are some ways that you can now bounce back from that. Okay? And so that is our academics area, but the next area is really huge for our middle schoolers, and that is the social, emotional aspect of what they are dealing with. This is a big deal for your adolescent, preteen, and early teens, and you might notice, right, that your student, once they're going from middle to elementary to middle, and even in middle, they may experience mood changes and mood swings. Remember how we talked about their hormones, and so some of these things are inevitable, right? So they may be more irritable, maybe a little bit more argumentative and things like that. Their physical body starts to change. Sometimes they have pimples, again, as a result of those hormones. Bodily changes in general can cause distress for our middle schoolers. Friendships are just become so important to them at this stage. Another thing that they oftentimes deal with is being easily embarrassed. Although parents and adults, we think that being different is a great thing, right? It's a good thing. But your middle schooler may not like it so much, at least in the early like in their early middle school years, they can be uncomfortable when it comes to, or if they think that they are different, right? And they often feel as if the whole world is watching them. So if they do anything that's different, then they feel like the spotlight is even, brighter on them. So just keeping that in mind. And of course, they're in middle school. We know we have a middle school philosophy where we allow students to develop through this process. We know what they're going through, but still, even there are going to be new opportunities for them to experience peer pressure. So that's a conversation and things that you want to keep in mind, and a conversation you want to have with them so that they can be prepared. Even role-playing different ways that they can deal with, new peer pressure that's coming their way. And of course, in middle school, typically towards the later end, they start having interest in boyfriend, girlfriends, and they just worry incessantly about how they look or what clothes they're wearing, whether or not they want to change into PE. Oftentimes we see PE becomes an issue for some of our students because they, are uncomfortable with the changes that are happening in their body. So this is a big area for our middle school students, and we, want to make sure that we take time to help them navigate that process. So, parents, some of the ways you can help your son or daughter in this area is to, of course, recognize and acknowledge their feelings. We don't want to say, "Oh, that's no big deal," or y'all will be friends tomorrow. Don't worry about that, because then to the student it feels like their feelings are what they think is being discounted. So we want to make sure that we recognize and acknowledge their feelings. These things, although they may seem very minor to us, are a big deal to our middle schoolers. So we also want to help them as parents and us, like with the school personnel as well, help them to develop empathy, help them to see things from someone else's perspective. And this is an area, again, because they're now starting to think more abstract, that they are ready for. Be there and offer support, guide them in their decision making, and of course give them tools they need to succeed. Sometimes we have to help them learn how to make friends, right? Because, when they were in elementary school, again, they were with the same group of kids. It was a little bit easier because they spent so much time with the same group of kids, whereas in middle school, it's a little bit bigger. They're changing classes. They don't spend as much time with people, so sometimes we have to help them learn how to, start a conversation or make new friends, and put them in situations where they can do that. Also, help them to understand and identify their feelings. Sometimes they don't really recognize that they're angry or that they're actually hurt or disappointed by something. So helping them to understand those things and then express themselves appropriately when they realize that. And finally, in this area, helping them to learn from a failure and to know that it's not the end of the world as they know it because they failed or in an area, but there's actually an opportunity for them to learn from that failure. And so having that discussion with them where you're talking about, okay, so what can you do next time to avoid being in this situation? How can you be more prepared if it was a test that they failed? What are some things you can do the next time to, make sure that that doesn't happen again? So walking them through that process. Again, sometimes, despite everyone's best effort, things can go wrong. And if and when that occurs, you'll want to focus on the behavior, not the student. We don't want any child to feel that the people that they love most think that they're a bad person or, or they're not smart or anything like that. So we want, whenever something goes wrong in that area, we want to make sure that we're not focusing on them as the person, but focusing on the actual behavior that they engaged in that was troubling. Also, again, helping them to problem solve, teaching them how to manage anger, identify it first, and then manage anger and how to deal with conflict, how to deal with conflict in person. Where there's a person standing in front of you, because we do know that our students are really connected when it comes to online, but when it comes to face-to-face, helping them to learn how to manage interactions that they have with people in that environment. Again, using role plays, teaching them how to relax. But even with that, we want you to look out for deeper problems, right? Pay attention to changes in your students, especially in their behavior, their mood, their attitude, and although some of those other areas, as long as they have you supporting them, they'll blow over. However, there are times when you should actually get, concerned. And those times include, if you see a sudden and drastic change in behavior or personality in your child, or you see a dramatic change in appetite and sleep patterns. They're not, they used to just fall asleep easily, and now they're up all night, no matter what. You want to see that is concerning, right? Dramatic change in how if they cry too often and too easily, or they begin to spend more time alone or seem withdrawn to you. And you definitely want to take note if they start losing interest in things and people that they formerly enjoyed, then those are times that we want to be concerned. And during these times, what you as parent can do is provide reassurance, make sure they know you're there for them. And at this age, trust is fragile. But we have to emphasize with our kids that safety comes first. So again, helping them learn from their mistakes and how to bounce back, teaching them to be, resilient, helping them with coping skills to deal with, disappointments or blows to their self-esteem or what they thought they could handle academically, but helping them to learn how to cope with that and bounce back from them. And helping them to be flexible in their thinking, again, goes back a little bit to empathy, but just seeing a variety of perspectives, especially like failure, helping to put failure in perspective for them, or helping to put an ending to a friendship in perspective for them. So just teaching them to see things in a variety of perspectives, right? And of course, the student services staff at your school counselor, your school psychologist, your school social worker, your school nurse, they are there to help your child, and they are there to help you. So if you're dealing with one of those situations and you're feeling like this isn't something that's easily blowing over for your child, please reach out to those student services staff at your school so that they can help in this area. Again, that whole social emotional piece is a big deal for our middle schoolers. And finally, in that transition, we've talked about anyway, the transition from your elementary to middle. And in that process, of course, our students then transition from the middle to high school years. And, you know, like during this time, they'll be a bit more settled academically, emotionally, and socially, but will still need quite a bit of guidance and support from you. During this time, you can help your son or daughter by helping them, again, set goals. What are their goals? Asking them questions, being interested. I know sometimes they may answer you with one word here and there, but if you continue to ask questions where it doesn't feel like you're prying, but you just are genuinely interested in what's going on with them, I typically tend to appreciate that. Again, listen carefully. So listening carefully, respecting how they feel and what they think and what they share. Also, by helping them to get more involved. So if you have your student who's now transitioning from middle to high, helping them to see what's available at the high school that they can immediately get involved and be a part of that high school community. That's very, very important. And then, of course, helping them to develop healthy routines and structures, because that is what they can fall back on once they get, into high school, is they have a routine, and they know what the expectations and the structure is, right? And, of course, be one of those safe places that your student can come to and talk to and be accepted, for who they are. And then, of course, finally, hold them accountable because, at least hold them accountable to their own goals. What did they say they were going to do? Because they have determined this was important for them and they wanted to reach that goal for whatever reason. And so it's good. I mean, all of us need someone holding us accountable. So, of course, that is a big piece. And that's pretty much what I have for you as far as helping our kids transition from elementary to middle, getting through those middle school years, and then going on to our high school years. And I can open it up